I was always a precocious reader, and I was interested in what you would call parapsychology, ghosts and spirits from a very early age, largely as a result of I had finished all the Sherlock Holmes stories by Conan Doyle, and I pulled out this book called The Land of Mist, thinking it was another Sherlock Holmes story, and it turned out to be about spiritualism. And I devoured it, and then I got interested in the whole business of spirits and read lots of books in the local library. That's how I got into psychology, through spiritualism, actually. I actually have a graduate degree. My doctoral work is in comparative religion. So I had done a specialty in Hinduism, and I was familiar with the doctrine of reincarnation as just an academic doctrine. But I had no personal interest in it, and I had never thought of pursuing my past lives at all. Later on, some 10 years later, I became interested in Buddhist meditation. And it was while I was actually at a retreat in the south of England that I had what you would call a past life flashback. I found myself in the meditation in the middle of what seemed to be a medieval massacre. It was really so unpleasant. And for years, I didn't really like to look at it. And it was only when I discovered a colleague who knew a bit about hypnotic regression that we both agreed to try a technique with each other out of a book. And back came the same lifetime. And then I had to look at it in some detail. So we decided that we might be able to use this with clients. That was in the mid-70s. And at that time, there were only a handful of books that were coming out about past life therapy. Maurice Netherton and Edith Fiore's book had come out. We invited one of them, Netherton, to come and teach us some of his method, which he did. And shortly after that, we tried it with a few clients very successfully. And I also started teaching workshops around that time, which is where I got a sense of the variety of stories that can come up when people are regressed. Well, I was trained as a psychoanalyst in the Jungian tradition. And in that tradition, you work a lot with dreams and images. And you also train yourself to do something called active imagination, which is to go into a kind of self-induced trance and have a waking dream, to enter a dream state. I discovered I could do it very easily with music. And in those music journeys, I would often go into what now I realize were past life memories. I wasn't looking for them, but they just came spontaneously. What we look for in the therapy is what I've come to call the story behind the story. Very often when a client comes in with a complaint, the most obvious example would be a phobia, an irrational fear. And it is irrational. The person is afraid of cats. The person is afraid of going out into the supermarket. The person is afraid of crossing the street, that they might get run down. And in each of these cases, in the interview, we first of all find out whether indeed they have been savaged by a cat, whether they have been run over by a car, or whether they were raped or something in a supermarket. And usually we find nothing happened. They have no history in this lifetime of dire events happening in that way. This is why the phobia is irrational. It doesn't make sense. So we listen for what might be a story in the background, a story in the unconscious mind, which doesn't actually belong to the person's current day biography, that's somehow coming from somewhere else. And whilst this is an unusual idea, it's found over and over again, particularly with phobias, that the irrational fear suddenly becomes rational when we allow a story to surface from the fantasy life or the unconscious memory of this person. So we suddenly find that behind the fear of cats, there is a memory of being in the African plains and being attacked by a lion and savaged and killed as a black African in a past life. The past life story of someone who died in that way is somehow in the unconscious. The example you just gave me, I want you to go back and be in that job, that office, or wherever it is, and this woman has done what? She's come into your office. She's upset about something you haven't done.
Yeah, I think it's even in the hall. I mean, she didn't even have any
You're in the hall. Yep. So be there. You're in the hall.
Yeah.
Yep. And what have you just been doing?
I don't know. I think I was feeling good. You know, like I was trying. And,
yeah.
And then, and then she just stopped me and started confronting me, and she had already done that a few times.
All right. She's come in and she's confronting you in the hall. Mm-hmm. And what does she say? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How many times I've already gone over this with you a few times?
Yep. And so your thought is what when she's saying all this?
I just fear, panic.
Yeah. Stay with that. Where do you feel it in your body?
In here.
Yeah. Stay with that. In our form of past life regression work, we don't use a lot of hypnosis. We don't put people into very deep trances, but instead we encourage the dramatization of the stories, so that the body becomes involved. If there's anger, the body might get tense and rigid and might want to hit something or twist a towel to express the rage that is coming up. They've killed my family, someone might say. I'm distraught. I'm going to take revenge. Those are embodied feelings and they need to be expressed. And we encourage the psychodramatic expression in the container of the therapy, so that there can be emotional release. So we've borrowed techniques in the form of past life regression I particularly use. We've borrowed techniques from psychodrama, from what is called Gestalt therapy, and from those therapies that emphasize the release of energy blocked in the body. So we emphasize the physical. At the same time, we have taken a lot of cues from Tibetan schools of meditation that talk about what happens to the soul after death. And we've also taken careful note of what has been learnt from near-death experience, people who've clinically died and gone into other realms, because we find that in past lives the death experience is very crucial. People remember how it is to die and what it is to leave the body, sometimes with difficulty. People remembering they can't leave the battlefield death because they're looking for their buddies. Or the mother can't leave the village because she's lost her child. And her spirit literally hangs around the earth. I believe that is the essence of what psychotherapy is about. to free up the life force where it is blocked, where it is not flowing freely, spontaneously into life, into happy, spontaneous living. Not to say that there isn't tragedy and upheaval in life, but to be able to respond to it fully and openly. As St. Paul says somewhere, to laugh with those that do laugh, and to weep with those that do weep. To have the whole range of human feelings available to us is to be healthy. Closer. What's happening, body? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Just trying to hold them off.
Yeah, yeah. So we teach the running a story as a psychodrama, sitting on a mat, lying on a mat, sitting on a chair, sitting under a pile of cushions, being beaten half to death. We dramatize everything. And for my dramas, I teach my students to have a little kit of tools. So if you're a soldier with your eyes closed, we give you a sword or a staff or a spear. If you're about to be hanged, we oblige you with a piece of rope. Now, believe me, if you've got a trauma about neck stuff from a past life, you don't like tight clothes, and you put someone into a memory, and they say, oh, they're putting a rope round my neck. It's one thing to say they're putting a rope round my neck, and then with their eyes closed, you gently do this. It takes you so deeply in, very, very quickly. A simple bit of psychodrama, and we never put on a lot of, I've never actually strangled anyone. Right? They're coming in. They're crushing in at you. Yep, yep, yep. Yep. What do they do? They jostle you? They're hitting you? What are they doing? These are all doorways. The aim is to get to the feeling core that is blocked, okay? To release the blocked energy. And these are simply doorways. You can go through the body. Body workers may get to the feelings from working through the body. Gestalt therapists say there's only the now. There's no such thing as the past. Stay with the now. They call that the existential. Okay? Going through the present moment. Awareness. Freudians will go in through childhood. They're trying to get to the lost feelings that were, quote, blocked in childhood. Okay? Gestaltists would say, well, they're blocked today, too. Why bother with childhood? Past lives, we say that we have stories that we're carrying in the unconscious mind that show us that they're residues of events in the past that show us exactly how we blocked and why we blocked. And if we work with those stories, they will take us to the feeling core. Whichever way we go in, the aim is to go to the feeling core. These are, if you like, 6 routes to the core of the complex. That's it. Resist them. That's it. That's right. That's right. There's no one there for me. Yeah, no one there for me. Yeah. All the way through. All alone, no one there for you. Nobody cares. A conceptual framework to hold together all these different perspectives. The past lives is just one of them. I never say to a client, we're only going to work with past lives. I say, if we need to, we will go to the past lives. It may be that we will stay in an existential psychodrama of what's going on in their life right now, having it out with the wife or whatever it is. But the past lives are a particularly potent way to work with the complex because it goes to what feels to be the root of the issue, and it gives us pictures of how human tragedies have caused us to shut down.
So then I wonder if it's all right to keep asking questions, or...
It's fine. It's fine, actually. But your trigger is, he's angry with you. Right. Just as this group, they wanted someone to turn on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm not looking for, this group is not the same as that.
Yeah.
Okay. So just some way of reminding yourself, I'm not in that group situation any longer.
Yeah, I'm not in that group.
Right. Yeah. I'm among friends, like-minded people. We share a great deal here today. Yeah.
Frog meet every morning on the riverbank. They sit in a nook on the ground and talk. Each morning, the second they see each other, they open easily, telling stories of dreams and secrets, empty of any fear or suspicious holding back. To watch and to listen to these two is to understand how, as it's written, sometimes, when two beings come together, Christ becomes visible.
The shortest answer to that was given by a famous Tibetan teacher in America called Chogyam Trungpa. See, Tibetan teaching is rather, or Buddhist teaching is a bit confusing because they believe in rebirth, but they don't accept there is a thing called the soul that is reborn. So that sounds like a contradiction. So there was a student who put his hand up and said exactly that. You Tibetans, you Buddhists, believe in rebirth, but you don't believe in a soul. The soul for them is just a collection of habit patterns, basically. And so he said, what is it that gets reborn? And the master laughed and he said, our neuroses. So I could say with them that the only part of me, Roger, that is going to come back are the parts of Roger that weren't transformed and purified. My greed, my need for more sex in my life, my attachment to money. If I don't let those things go, they will be components in a new personality, just as neurotic as they are today. So I agree with the Tibetans. It's not my glorified ego is going to come back. If I were in a state of enlightenment, I believe that that ego's absorbed up into the light and be no more. There would be no more Roger. There would be no more ego, because all the things that made me an important personality would have been dissolved in some way. So basically I'm a mystic. I'm not at all interested in reincarnation for me or for anyone. I think we have to break out of the cycle of reincarnation. And it's not a matter of finding more and more glorious places on higher planes. That to me is glorifying the ego. And I'm not for that. I'm for letting go of the ego and finding union with the divine self where there is a dissolution. There will be no more Roger. There will be no more ego.